Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Yolanda. I am the face of Yolanda's books, and I am so glad that you guys are here. This will be actually the last vlog of 2024. Y'all, this year went by so stinking fast. I just cannot believe it. And I had such a great time with you guys this year. We read a ton of books. If you go on to my Goodreads, you will be able to see how many books I read and how many pages I read for the year of 2024. And if I actually met my reading goal. So hop on over when you get off of this vlog to Reading with Yolanda's books on Goodreads and check out some of the books that I read for the year of 2024 and my thoughts on some of those books that I wrote a review on. So this is the last vlog of 2024 and it will be my January possibles. Yes, y'all, I say my January possibles because I am such a huge mood reader, y'all. And then since I have actually started reading books along with audiobooks, it's like whatever books that I find on audio that I actually have and I really want to read, I will substitute that book for whatever books that I have on my TBRs for that month. So I'm going to start calling them my possibles because there are so many books that I have that are years old and I really want to get to reading those books and so that I can see if I like those books, if I want to keep those books to read again someday, or put it on the side of my bookshelf where I have books that I will actually lend people to actually read if they ask me for a good book. So we are here every Wednesday and Sunday. So if you're not subscribed to my channel, I would suggest you hit that subscription button down below that says Yolanda's books and become a part of this family. 2025 is about to hit and we have so much more reading, so much more bookish vlogs, and just so much more things to do as far as books for the upcoming year. So drop down in the comments, guys. Let me know what kind of books y'all like to read. Give me some recommendations on books and just become a part of Yolanda's books. But remember, y'all, share the love. Share the love. So tell your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, girlfriend, your aunties, uncles, cousins, your friends. Tell them about Yolanda's books and just ask them to support my channel. And we will just grow like wildfire, guys. We are doing so good right now. I think I have 857 subscribers. Y'all, thank y'all so much for subscribing to my channel. We are on our way to the next stage of being a YouTube partner. I have my 4,000 watch hours. We knocked that out the way. So now we just got to knock out the 1,000 subscribers to my channel. And then we can move on to the extra stuff that comes with being a YouTube partner. So I thank you guys so much for your support. And let's get into this video. All right, guys. So I am going to start with a book that is actually on my Kindle. I am actually already reading this book, so I know that I will finish this book in the month of January. It is by a Black author. Her name is Kimberly Brown, and the book is called Rhythm Blues. And here is the cover of that book, guys. Stunning, stunning. I love the cover of this book, even on Kindle. I don't have it physically, so I don't have that physical book to show you guys, but this here is one of the books that I will actually be reading in the month of January. I think I'm like 60-something% into this book, and I am loving this book. It is pretty much, from what I'm gathering, it is like the POV of Rhythm and this guy named Channing. So just a little small rundown of the book without me giving the book away because I don't have the back of the book to actually read to you guys. Rhythm, she is in a relationship with a guy named Raheem, and he is a musician. He actually has a female partner in his group, and the social media and those two actually act like they are more than just partners to the musical label. So Rhythm felt very some type of way. Raheem, he at some point will try to convince her that there's nothing going on there, just all the things, but he does not do a good job at it. So their lives start to turn in different directions. And so that's kind of like where I am at in the book. And I'm just loving this book, y'all. If y'all have not started reading Rhythm Blues, I would suggest you guys pick that book up and start reading that book. It is a very good book so far. The next book that we are actually currently reading is Miss Wiggins by Mary Monroe. This book is, I want to say, is it a historical fiction? From the way the book starts out, and it starts out running on all 10 toes, I kind of feel like this is a historical fiction book. It says the daughter of a prostitute mother and an alcoholic father, Maggie Franklin knew her only way out was to marry someone upstanding and church going. Someone like Herbert Wiggins, the most eligible man in Lexington, Alabama, and the son of its most reverend preacher. Proper and prosperous, Herbert is glad to finally have a wife, even one with Maggie's background. For Herbert has a secret he desperately needs to stay hidden, and Maggie's unexpected charm, elegance, and religious devotion makes her the perfect partner in lies. Their surprising reunion makes the Wiggins the town's most envied couple, complete with a son, Clyde, whom Maggie idolizes, until he falls in love with the most worst possible fiance. Terrified, Maggie won't let Daisy destroy her son, and when her employer's brother sexually harasses her, Maggie knows something needs to be done about him as well. In fact, she realizes there are an awful lot of sinning, disruptive people who should be eliminated from her perfect world. But the more Maggie tries to take control, the more obstacles are thrown in her way. And when it seems like the one person she always expected to be there is standing to drift away, Maggie will plan one final merciless game to secure what she's fought so hard to earn. So guys, I kind of feel like this is a historical fiction book. The copyright for this book is 2021, but yeah, this is a historical fiction book. It is between, at least part one is between 1917 and 1936. So this is a historical book. I'm reading this book also on audiobook. And the way this book just jumps out and start running at the very beginning of this book, I just really love it. The dialogue is there. The description of what these people are saying is there. This book, I feel like, is going to have a lot of trigger warnings in it, y'all, with sexual abuse, prostitution, racism, being in the gay community, all the things, guys. So I'm gonna just read. I just want to read the very first chapter in this book. It says, me and Herbert had only been married a little over 4 hours when he brought up the subject we've been discussing quite a bit lately. Maggie, I can't wait for us to find a man to get you pregnant. Decide what fake name you want to use. Keep it simple so you won't forget and slip up and give him your real name or a different fake name. Once we become parents, nobody will ever suspect we ain't normal. My husband sounded so casual. You would have thought he was talking about the weather. I call myself Louise. Good. This is a perfect name. That's a perfect name. You look more like a Louise than a Maggie anyway. I rolled my eyes and let out a loud breath. Just the thought of being in bed with a strange man, even one who'd handpicked, turned my stomach. Herbert stared at me with his eyes narrowed. Maggie, We will have to keep talking about it if we want our plan to work out. You agreed that if we added a baby to the mix, this would look like a real marriage. I was glad he sounded more serious now, but I was still tired of talking about the subject. Y'all, that is the first chapter in this book. Now you tell me, does that first chapter make you want to continue reading on in this book and just wonder what the secret is? Why are they doing this fake marriage trope? Why is he married to her in only 4 hours and then they have a plot going on already? So guys, if you have not read this book, even though I have just started reading this book, I would suggest you guys pick up this book. Maybe we can even be reading it together and we could talk about it toward the end of January to see how we all feel about this book. All right, friends, let's move right along with these possibles for the month of January. The next one, and y'all, a lot of these books are pretty much, most of these books are books that I am actually in the middle of reading right now. So that's why I say my January possibles, but hopefully, most likely, they will actually be the books that I read in January. So this one is a fantasy book. It's called Lore, and it is by Alexander Braxton. This is a fantasy book. I am like 20 something percent in. I'm on page 106 in this book. And I don't know exactly how I feel about this book yet. So even as far as being already read this book, but it says every 7 years, the Angun begins. As punishment for a past rebellion, 9 Greek gods are forced to walk the earth as mortals. They are hunted by the descendants of ancient bloodlines, all eager to kill a god and seize their divine power and immortality. Long ago, Luri fled that brutal world, turning her back on her hunt's promise of external glory after her family was murdered by a rival line. For years, she's pushed away any thought of revenge against the man, now a god, responsible for their deaths. Yet, as the next hunt dawns over New York City, 2 participants seek her out. Castor, a childhood friend, Laura, believed to be dead, and Athena, one of the last of the original gods, now gravely wounded. The goddesses offer an allowance against though their mutual enemy and a way to leave Angun behind forever. But Lur's decision to rejoin the hunt, binding her fate with Athena's, will come at a deadly cost, and it may not be enough to stop the rise of a new god with the power to bring humanity to its knees. Not quite sure what am I going to think about this book. Of course, like you guys know, I'm not a huge fantasy reader, but I try to stick some fantasies in there because the covers of some of these fantasy books are just so beautiful. And the way some people talk about fantasies is like, I try some fantasies because I do like to read diverse books, and I like to kind of like dip my hand in other genres that are out there in the book world. So this next one that I am going to speak of is another fantasy book, and it's a thickin'. This is, I don't know what series this book is in this series. I don't even know what the series is actually called. Or at least I don't think I can pronounce it, y'all. But I have had this book on my shelf for quite some time. I actually found it on audio. So I decided that I don't care what book this is in that series. I am actually going to read this book to see if I will want to read the other books in this series, or if I'm just going to put this in a little free library for somebody else to read. So, of course, as you can see, it is about this guy and his dragon. And it says, the world is no longer safe for the dragon rider, however you say his name, and his dragon Thorn. An evil king has been toppled, and they are left to face the consequences of the reluctant role they played in the reign of terror. Now they are hunted and alone, exiled to the outskirts of society. So it basically sounds like they were booted out of wherever they were a member of, and now they are out on their own. So I don't know how I will feel about that book, guys, but I will start reading that book as well. I have been wanting to read this first book in this series for quite some time. This nice girl on my job, Abby, she was actually reading this book, or it was either her sister, but I think it was her, Abby Art. She was reading this book one day up in PCU when I was passing by. And I was like, oh my God, I really want to read that book one day. And she was saying that she actually was really enjoying this book. And I think The Cruel Prince is actually what actually got us started talking to each other about books. And we have been doing it ever since, y'all. And I just love talking to books about books with her. But this one is the first book in the series of The Cruel Prince. It's by Holly Jackson. I love the cover of this book. This cover is very dainty and very self-explanatory. I love books that have covers like that. And it says Jude was 7 when her parents were murdered, and she and her 2 sisters were stolen away to live in the treacherous high court of Fairy. 10 years later, Judd wants nothing more than to belong there, but many of the 5 despise humans. So obviously the place where they actually are, they are not human, and her 2 sisters are. Especially Prince Carlton, the youngest and wickedest son of the Holly King. To win a place at the court, Judd must defy him and face the consequences. So very dainty synopsis of this book. So I'm hoping that when I actually start reading this book, it will like come to life for me, because that description of what this book is about is very dainty and very not very informational. So hopefully I will enjoy that book, because I have been looking forward to reading that book for quite some time. The next one is called She Gets the Girl by Rachel Lena Pinacott and Allison Derrick. I don't actually know how to say their names, but it is called She Gets the Girl. Very, very cute book. I've had this book on my shelf for over a year. I actually found it on audio when I was looking through Libby, and I decided to pick this book up also and read it. And it is pretty much about Alex and Molly. It says Alex and Molly don't belong on the same planet, let alone the same college campus. But when Alex, fresh off a bad but hopefully not permanent breakup, discovers Molly's hidden crush, as their paths cross, they realize they might have a common interest after all. Because maybe if Alex volunteers to help Molly learn how to get her dream girl to fall for her, she can prove to her ex that she's not a selfish flirt. That's that she's ready for an actual commitment. And while Alex is the last person Molly would ever think she could trust, she can't deny Alex knows what she's doing with girls unlike her. As the two embark on their 5-step plan to get their girls to fall for them, though they both begin to wonder if maybe they're the ones falling for each other. There's somebody on here that says sweet, honest, and filled with personality. I love a book that is filled with personality. That means it has a lot of point of views of the actual characters in the book. That means to me like it has a lot of dialogue and a lot of great descriptions, and hopefully it will I will be able to connect to these 2 girls in this book. She Gets the Girl, another book on my January possibles. We have a graphic novel on my January possibles. This is a graphic novel that was introduced to me by my daughter Faith, the one you see on these vlogs. It is a Five Nights of Freddy's graphic novel. It is actually volume 1. Fritz Bear Frights, and I am very interested in reading this graphic novel. I actually just got done reading a graphic novel named Annie of West Philly. Very, very nice book. Y'all, just to give y'all a little insight on how I feel about graphic novels. I love a graphic novel. It is an easy book to read. If you're in a book slump, I feel like it will get you out of that book slump, and it will actually bring out your inner child as well. And the reason why I say that, because it looks like a comic book. And what child doesn't like comic book? What inner child of you does not like comic books? I love the dialogue in a graphic novel. I love the conversation in the graphic novel. Graphic novels actually have their POV as well. It has a storyline, and then the illustration in these graphic novels are so great. Like, it just really paints a picture, and it is just so fun. Like, guys, look at this book. Like, it is just so fun to be able to read a graphic novel, and I am just all up for it. So this one says, don't miss this pulse pounding collection of 3 novel length comic stories that will keep even the bravest player up all night. What do you wish for the most? It's a question that Oswald, Sarah, and Oscar think they know the answer to. Oswald wishes his summers wasn't so boring. Sarah wishes to be beautiful. And Oscar wishes to get his hands on the mechanical toy that's out of stock all over town. But in the twisted world of Five Nights at Freddy's, their heart's deepest desires have an unexpected cost. So again, that is like a very dainty description of what this book is about. But y'all, as I'm flipping through this book, I want to start reading this book now. The illustrations are so great, and I just feel like that I will have such a good time reading that book. The next book that is on our January Possibles is a S.E. Hinson book, and it is The Outsiders. I want to say that this book will probably remind me more of the movie called Greasers. If you guys have heard of that movie or seen that movie. My daughter actually also brought my attention to this book, The Outsiders. She says she has read the book, and she actually really loved the movie as well. She likes the movie better. This one says a heroic story of friendship and belonging. And I know the main character in this book is Pony Boy, and it is about him and his 2 brothers, and then him and his 2 friends. And then it is about a game called Socks, and the Socks actually call them Greasers because they feel like they are less fortunate than they are. So it's like rich versus poor. And then it's like, I'm guessing some things happen, and it like kind of like changes the world of Pony Boy forever. So hopefully I will actually enjoy that book as well. This book is book 2 of the series called The Pawn and the Puppet. I have read The Pawn and the Puppet. If you go over to my Goodreads, I'm pretty sure that I actually rated this book on Goodreads. It is called Reading with Yolanda's Books. If you go over there, you can see what I felt about the very first book in this series. This is book 2. This book series was actually given to me to borrow to read by another person on my job, Amanda Joe, and she just loved this series. She said she flew through this series, and it was a very enjoyable series. I decided to pick this one up to start reading them so that I can discuss these books with her, because she really wants to discuss these books with me. So this one is called The Master and the Marriott, and it's by Brandy Zinker. And this is just a continuation of the patient at the facility that Skyland worked at, I think. called Patient 13, but he actually told her what his real name was, and it was Destin. But it says Scotland has left the Chandelier City, the Emerald Lake Asylum, and the twisted social restraints of women to run away with the patient everyone fears, Destin. As they head into the enchanted forest surrounding the city, Skyland learns that the mystery of the infamous Patient 13 is far from over. There are still a missing pieces of her past and a master plan that relies on Skyland's trust in Destin with blind faith. And with each dangerous situation comes a new alter, a new personality to meet, a new man that deepens her attraction. It isn't until they run into unexpected allies and ancient colonies of the forest that they learn of a reason to go back to the asylum willingly. But Skyland doesn't have the luxury of obtaining her old comfort position. This time around, she must accept a new role as the 12th patient of the Emerald Lake Asylum. Simulated drownings, force feedings, whippings, and life within the treacherous cage of the Sheffin. Skyland begins to wonder how much of this game she'll be able to endure. Will Destin prove she means as much to him as he does to her, or is the master merely playing with his marionette? So, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I will have to read this book. I don't know how am I going to feel about this book. I don't know how I'm going to feel about trying to read the other books in this series. This also is not my typical genre, but I do like to branch out and read other books just so that I can discuss other books that I really don't read or whatever with people who actually really like those books. Moving right along, I was planning on reading this book in this month, but I did not get to it, y'all. I got to no Christmas books this year, and I am very disappointed about it. But with me being such a mood reader, I just wasn't in the mood to read a Christmas book, and I was just so disappointed in myself with that. But I did start reading The Christmas Pig by J.K. Rowling, and we will read this one in the month of January. And it's just basically about a little boy who had a pig, a stuffed pig, who was actually his best friend, came to life, like all the things. And the pig actually got lost. So very interested in getting that book read. We have finally a Elin Hilderbrand book, The 5-Star Weekend. I am finally getting to reading this book or a book by this author. I hear a lot of good things about this author. She has a ton of books I see that she has actually wrote. This one is called The 5-Star Weekend. And to my understanding, it is about a girl named Hollis. She prospectively had the perfect life, like a picture perfect life. She was a creator of a successful food blog, and she was actually married to a heart surgeon. And then her life took a change when her husband was killed in an accident, and they didn't have the best of their marriage. Their marriage was actually on the rocks per se, and they also, before he left to go where he went, they also had an argument. So he never came back. They had this argument. So her life was basically just turned upside down. And she also had a teenage child in the process. And so she needed a getaway of some type, to my understanding. So that's how she ended up at having a 5-star weekend somewhere, wherever. So I'm very interested in reading the first book by this author, The 5-Star Weekend. This book I just picked up and started reading. It's called Wicked by Gregory Maguire. There is a person that I love to look at on YouTube. She was obsessed with this book, and I was obsessed with the cover and the actual retelling of The Wizard of Oz, because I love The Wizard of Oz. I will look at The Wizard of Oz whenever I can. And this one is pretty much kind of like a retelling of that book. It says, years before Dorothy and her dog crash land, another little girl makes her presence known in Oz. The girl Ephalabla is born with emerald green skin, no easy birding in land as mean and poor as Oz, where superstition and magic are not strong enough to explain or overcome the natural disasters of flood and famine. Still, Ephalabla is smart, and not long after entering Shire University, she becomes a member of a charmed circle of Oz's most promising young citizens. But Ephalabla Oz is no euphoria. The wizard's secret police are everywhere. Animals, those creates where voices, souls, and minds are threatened with exile. Young Ephalabla, green and wild and misunderstood, is determined to protect the animals, even if it means combating the mysterious wizard, even if it means risking her single chance at romance. Even wiser in guilt and sorrow, she can find herself grateful when the world declares her a witch. And she can even make herself glad for that young girl from Kansas. Y'all, I don't know how I feel about the synopsis on the back of this book. It kind of reminds me of Wizard of Oz, but then it just goes off the deep end. It's like Elphaba, she reminds me of the Wicked Witch of the West, with being green, all the things. But then it starts to talk about how animals are, she was trying to say animals, and then it's starting to talk about like how her trying to say these animals going to mess up her chance at romance. And then it goes on y'all, I don't know. The read so far is good, but to me, the read so far does not say anything to me about what the back of this book is, besides that she was born as a green girl. So we will keep reading that book, and I will be able to tell you guys my thoughts on that book at the end. All right, guys. So that is all the books that are my possibles in the month of January. I can safely say that most of those books that I will actually read in the month of January. So this is my January possible / TBR. I love the diverse amount of reads that I have, from romance to fantasy. I don't really think I have any thrillers in my TBR or my possibles for January. The only one I might have as a thriller might be this graphic novel, which is Five Nights at Freddy's. To come to think about it, that's probably like the only thriller that I have out of the bunch of books that I hope that I will be able to get read in the month of January. So again, y'all, thank y'all so much for joining me today. The end of 2025 is coming in. I hope everybody read as many books as they wanted to for 2024. I hope everything went well for y'all for 2024. If y'all believe in New Year's resolutions, you can drop some of them down in the comments. Let me know what you guys' New Year's resolutions is as far as books and content. Mine is just to really level up for you guys. And again, what I mean by that is my actual content creation. I would like to do more in 2025, go more places, and shop for books for you guys in 2025. I would like to give you guys a more in-depth description of like how the books make me feel. I want to read as many books as I can in 2025. I want to be able to make more videos that really surrounds around my subscribers and what you guys want and the books that you guys actually would like to see me read. So again, guys, thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.